Hello and welcome. This is Adam Lambert, Be The Wellness, and thank you for stopping by to watch this video. Today, we're going to be talking about the very first step we think you should take in understanding whether or not you want to run retreats. And that is really going to be understanding if your audience wants you to run retreats. If your audience is down to spend their time and money to come and do whatever it is that you do in person. And so we've been in this business for a long time. We've been running retreats for over a decade now, and we run retreats for our own audience. We run retreats for other people, planning and executing for their audiences, and we do some amount of education on teaching people how to do this, right? So it's very much our world, and so much of the stuff that we talk about and the things that these are all just things that we wish somebody would have told us in the beginning, right? And so this is definitely one of those, and that is this idea of audience polling and really trying to understand, what your folks are up to, what they're interested in. And then, the other side of that is this is a great opportunity for us to be able to start the conversation around what it is you want to offer. And so we want to make sure that we're approaching this in this sort of two-pronged fashion. You need to get the information that you need in order to understand what kind of retreat you're going to run, or if you're going to run one at all. And then you also want to take this opportunity, this interaction that you're having with your people, to get them excited about what's going on. And so there's a really nice way for these two things to work together, and that's what I want to talk about. So you can get the cheat sheet that has all of the specifics and everything on it just by dropping your contact info in the form over there. We'll email it over to you, and you'll be able to go through it step by step when you're building out your poll. And it's going to have all of the information that you need really to build all of the individual questions. So you can download that. So I'm not going to talk about that a ton. What I really want to talk about is kind of the importance, the ethos, the importance of your energy going into this, and how you kind of go about it to really maximize that stuff. So right out the gate, there's probably some of you who are saying, I know my audience. I did an Instagram poll and they all said they wanted to come to a retreat. And I'll say that that's probably not good enough. Our experience with this has been, we've worked with people who have very large audiences, hundreds of thousands of people on an email list. And when it comes time to, actually committing and signing up for a retreat, very, very few people, a very small percentage of those people were willing to raise their hand, and you don't know unless you ask the questions, and unless you get into this in the way that that we've learned how to do over the years. So here's what's up. When we initiate this conversation about what do people want, where do they want to go with you, are they interested in going, what's that all going to be about? We have to remember that it's really the beginning of the sales process. This is us enrolling them in the launch of a new thing that we're doing. And so there's actually this is launch strategy 101, right? It's poll your audience, ask them some kind of broad questions, to see what the language is that they're using when they talk about, whatever the questions are you asked. And then you utilize that language to build out this product, and certainly utilize that language in the copy for your sales page and all that, right? So they're speaking to themselves essentially when they're responding to this poll. And there's really no difference here. And so the sort of best practices, the things that we know to work around this are, enrolling people in the excitement of this new offering. So we want to capture two real things here. We want to get them excited about what's going on, so that they can start to see the possibility of themselves being on this trip with you, on this adventure with you, doing whatever it is you do. And that also they have a level of buy-in into it, so that they feel as though they're having some say in how this goes down. And I will say that retreats and travel in general, this becomes extra important. You probably have someone in your life, maybe you are this person, who when you go traveling, like a family vacation or whatever, you're the one who plans every single thing. Everything has to be super mapped out. You've got it all. You've got, spreadsheets and binders and all of the stuff written down. And that's how you go on vacation, right? And then there's the other half of the people out there who they want to go on vacation to not have to do that. They want to go and be part of something that they could just be like, yeah, that sounds great. Sign me up. Tell me where to go, right? And so you're really talking to two different kinds of people here. And so we want to make sure that we kind of address each of their needs. And the way that we want to do that is by offering, specifics in the options. So let's say, as an example, we're like, yeah, would you rather go to, a beautiful Hawaiian getaway and enjoy the, soaking up vitamin D and on the beaches of Hawaii, or this get together in, I don't know, Northeast Canada, like whatever, right? So you have these two sort of separate and disparate things. And the way that you talk about them, you want it to be engaging enough that the people who are like, just tell me what to do, go, oh yeah, that sounds good. Like, I like that more than the other thing that you said, right? It's enough information for them to make that decision, but it's not so well thought out and so curated that the person who likes to plan their own stuff is like, I'm not into that. If I was going to do it, I would do it differently. So we're like in this weird blend of vague but specific. And, we've got examples on here of kind of how to get to some of that, but that gets you a couple things. One, it's broad enough and it's going to capture those two sorts of people and get them sort of engaged in the process, which is great. But it's also actionable information for you, because the last thing you want to do is go through this whole process and come up with a spreadsheet full of stuff that doesn't really tell you anything. So we want to be specific enough so that if you decide that it's the Hawaiian adventure or whatever that gets kind of the most votes, when that winds up on the sales page, people are going to be like, oh yeah, that's the thing that I picked. And so, I have some buy-in to that, right? So that's the overarching sort of broadness of it, right? Specific enough to capture the people who just want a choice, broad enough to be engaging and interesting to people who normally plan this kind of stuff for themselves. So that's sort of that's the direction that we want to start this whole thing off with. And that's going to flow, that sort of energy that you're generating. It's like, hey, would you be interested in doing this thing? Wow, that starts to seem really awesome. And then we start to kind of go down the questions one by one and fine tune it for people a little bit. So, sticking with that original idea, yeah, we're going to do this awesome vacation in Hawaii, and I'm thinking about the sand and all of this stuff. And then we want to get into this, the sort of next level of that is like, how long do you want to be there? What sort of ratio of things do we want to do? Like, as an example, let's say you're a photographer and you're taking people out there to do this, photographing the most awesome sunsets in Maui, or whatever the thing is that you're into. Obviously, you're going to spend some amount of time dialing in the cameras, right? And so we would kind of call that content. And then on the other side of it, you're in Hawaii, so you should be doing some awesome stuff. So maybe you take a surf lesson or whatever, and we would call that activities. And so we want to understand what's the ratio of content to activities that your people want to do at an event like this, so we can be sure that we're getting that right. Because that's like, in your audience, you may just already know this, but some people are going to really engage with the content that you provide. And some people just think you're cool and they would really like to go spend time with you somewhere and get to know you better, right? And so you just don't know what that ratio is until you start to kind of map that stuff out. So again, we're going through this process of walking these people down this path. Here's this super awesome thing that's coming. I get to put some buy-in into it. Oh wow, we're even talking about, how much time I'm going to get to spend with this person versus this other vacation-y kind of thing. And as we walk them down this path, they can start to see themselves at this event. They can see themselves hanging out with groups of like-minded people, and they're doing all of this cool stuff. They're picturing their Instagram and all of this stuff. And by the time they get to the end of this form, the last thing that we sort of offer them is, hey, do you want to be on the pre-sale list for this? Or do you want to be notified about any special offers, or early signups or early bird or whatever, whatever the language is you would normally use. That's going to be kind of the last question on the list, right? And so what we've really done is we've taken what could have been just kind of a mundane call to action of, hey guys, I'm thinking about doing something. Would you mind answering these 5 basic questions on this form, right? We've taken it from that where people are like, I don't know, right? And we've spun it into, hey guys, there's this thing I've been wanting to do and I can't believe it's finally coming to fruition. I just need a little bit of help from you guys. Please fill out this form. They hit the form, and all the questions are engaging, and they're starting to paint this picture and walk them down the path, right? And that's really what we're trying to capture here. It's not just about the answers to the questions. Obviously, we need to know that. This is data that's going to help us to understand whether this is a viable event or not, or help you understand if this is a viable event. But if it is, we want to make sure that we did not miss out on this opportunity to light the fire and to start getting people thinking about this and putting you in that space. And that's something I want to talk about a little bit more, actually, is this idea of putting you in the space, you being, the coach, the presenter, the thought leader, who, the person that's going to host this event. If that's not something that you have done in the past, right, it may take a little bit to get your audience to see you in that role. They may have never considered, oh, that would be cool. I never considered that this person might actually lead an in-person event that I would want to go to. And frequently people are super excited about that idea, but we do have to kind of walk them down that path a little bit to get them used to the idea of you being someone that they could know in person. And this is really the beginning of that, and so if we can take the extra time to kind of recognize that they might not be fully ready to be, all in with you, then we can kind of walk them down the path. Oh yeah, it could actually be pretty cool. There'd be, X amount of people, and we could be outside, and we could get some amount of coaching and some amount of awesome, activities. It'd be like a vacation in the area. Once you start to get that ball rolling, then it's going to stick. And so from this kind of launch strategy perspective, it's super excited, super engaged. Hey guys, here's the thing. Please just fill this out. I want to hear from you. We're in the final stages of prepping this thing, but there's a couple of things we need help with, right? It's that kind of stuff, very engaging, getting the buy-in from your folks. They come, they fill it out. They're gonna, have some amount of answers in there. You're gonna get some great feedback from them, and then you're gonna take that specific feedback, plan the event that you want to plan, and utilize all of that copy, all of that language, the tone that people are using. We like to add in, some sort of open-ended stuff at the end of some of these questions. Like we'll offer 3 or 4 ideas about where we want to go and what we want to do. And then we always offer like an other and let people write in whatever. That's the gold, and then at the end of the form, there might be a thing that says, is there anything else that we should know? And let them write it in. And that's where the real magic is going to start to show up, because you've walked them down this path of visualizing themselves doing this thing. And then you gave them an opportunity to just kind of like, blah, and let it all out, right? That's where you're going to be like, oh man, this is what my people are really into. And you get, 30, 40, 50, 100 of these responses, and you're going to have a very good idea of what your people are into, whether it's going to work for you or not, and what kind of the next steps are. Like all right, man, is it go time? We're just ready to pull the trigger on this thing, So again, there's a lot that goes into running retreats. It's a tremendous amount of work. There's a potentially a significant time and capital investment in the whole thing. And you just don't know whether your audience is going to be into it or not until you poll them. And, it may even take time. Like for us, it's taken a couple of years to perfect, probably 8 years, to perfect the process that we utilize in selecting retreat locations and all of that. But, lucky for you guys, that's literally what this is. This is all of our years of experience condensed down into, the most effective way to get this done from our perspective. So if you haven't done so already, go over, drop your contact information into the form. We'll send you this. It's got everything in there you want. It's three sheets, essentially, checklist with examples and all of the stuff on how we actually go about asking these questions, some example answers, all of that stuff. It's definitely the way to go. It's the first stop on this whole thing. Like, please don't skip it, and please don't put too much time and effort into, this whole thing about running retreats until you know this part. It's literally the most important piece of the whole thing. So I hope that was helpful. You can always check us out at Be The Wellness Instagram. We've got all of our trips and retreats and all of the great stuff that we've done on there. Plenty of testimonials from people who have come and enjoyed the world with us. And it's a great place to just kind of get to know us a little bit better. So thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.